Hey everyone, your host Cy Smith coming to you on a Monday. Every Monday is safety day. Ethiopia has the duty today, you guys. Ethiopia is running things for us in the international space. In America, Detroit, Michigan is running things for us. And in Chicago, it is the new city, zip code 60609. That's who has it until midnight tonight. All right, let's talk about something very provocative, but I gotta say it. It'll be 25 years. It's unacceptable that the National Block Club University, isn't further along than we are now. I won't fault anyone in America except starting with Chicago, then second, Gary, Indiana. We collectively as black people are all over the place, uncoordinated, we call it DMOT, doing my own thing. And the thing about that is, at the end of the day, you got to find satisfaction where you find it at. The challenge for Chicago, and the reason I always say Chicago is the toughest city in America to organize in, is because number one, the volume. We third largest city in the nation, so no other city can compare except New York and L.A. Blacks are out of L.A. for the most part, and New York is vertical. Chicago is horizontal. The tall buildings in New York, ours is low horizontal. There's a difference there. A lot of land to cover, a lot of territory to cover. So anyway, going back to the reason it's the toughest city to organize in is because you have literally the people who have so much pain and suffering, and then you put the volume on top of that is hardened perspectives of our leaders, hardened their perspective. It made them dig in the trenches even more so to do whatever they feel is important, whether it's housing, education, safety. They're hardening their perspective. So that means they can't see value in what someone else is doing because they're so focused on what they're doing. This is why I've been doing this 25 years. When people in Georgia, Cartersville, Rome say, "Si, why hometown not helping you the way it could?" Well, they are. Couldn't be where I am without the Chicago leaders helping. So kudos to all those, but definitely nowhere near the scale that it should be in 25 coming up. And that's why, because it is the toughest city to organize in. The leaders are entrenched in their views, meaning they're doing good work, but they can't see value in something else until now. This video here is gonna really hurt a lot of feelings, but I gotta do it, gotta say it. We talk about $1 a month, $12 a year. So if they get mad, and they haven't been supporting me anyway, so it's not gonna hurt nothing because we weren't getting funding from them anyway. But I love them. They mean well. All right, I'm a Navy guy, so I'm a little biased to the other branches. But the bottom line is this: all of our activists, every single last one of our activists, if their job is to fix the problem that they're active for, if they want to solve the problem, they're fighting wrong. Let me say that again. All the Chicago activists are fighting wrong. I say that wrong is a subjective term, so that's my perspective. But I say that as to provoke the emotional response that you probably just had when I said they're all wrong. But let me give some context on why I say that. And the reason I say they fighting wrong is because in this city, you're fighting against a giant. And what I'm saying, the activists here are fighting individually. They're not using the entire city as a resource. Let me say that. Then some people say, well, no, we got people all over the city. If that's the case, then you're not using the entire city and it's not tied to anything. In the Navy, one of the key things is if you don't tie that ship to the pier, it drifts off. So what I'm saying, with all of our activists in Chicago, if they're not supporting the structure of the centralized uniform delivery system that we have, if they're not supporting that, they're like a boat drifting. They're out there fighting, doing their own thing. When you think about all the branches of the military, the Army and the Marines physically fight. And a lot of our people are in physical fight mode. Not literally fighting, but just going to protest, going to march, going to yell, going to express themselves. The battle isn't there. All of the construction sites and places like that, the fight happens inside a boardroom. And with boardrooms, they're up high. You can't get to them. So you can protest downstairs, but you don't have access upstairs where the decisions are being made. So that's the Army and the Marine fight. The Air Force and the Navy fight differently. Their fight is pressing buttons. Their fight is remote. they can fight from almost anywhere. The Navy, unlike the Air Force need land-based agreements to land places. The Navy has to operate totally independent, using the 7 Cs to operate. And it does the same thing the Air Force do because it has its platform, which is the ships. I consider black people like the Navy, where we got to be able to operate totally independent in territories that they may not have agreements at. And the key with the reason I say the activists are wrong is because if you're protesting, if you're shutting something down, where are you coming from? Where is your movement tied to? God forbid, every second we're closer to death. God forbid you die. What happens to your movement? It probably dies. And what I'm saying is we've carved out 16 blocks, and those 16 blocks is just like in the military, a squadron. So when you see a aircraft carrier, you see the fighter jets, you see the attack jets, you see the parts, the one that move parts, airplanes, you see the helicopters. Each one of them serve a purpose, but each one of them come from a squadron. So if you hear about a plane crash and it was 3 crew members on board, the next squadron is sending the next 3. If you're an activist and you're protesting something, God forbid something happens to you, what happens? It stops. You may have a few other members that keep it going, but it's not tied to 16 blocks. It's not tied to a territory that's constantly training the next generation of people who's going to do what you're doing. And that's what I see why I say we're fighting the wrong way. We're physically fighting, meaning we need to be in proximity for the fight. We're not Air Force and Navy fighting, which is more using equipment. And when we say these 16 blocks is dealing with liquor stores, these 16 blocks is dealing with carpenters, these 16 blocks is dealing with nurses, it's because the need to tie whatever the fight is to territory so that we can always have a base to train, monitor, evaluate, get better, and then deploy as a detachment to fight the fight. We out there fighting the fight without having a base, and that's why I say we're fighting all wrong. Now, for $1 a month, we've been ignoring what God has put together, this piece. We've been ignoring this over $12. We've been letting people get shot, killed, stabbed, and raped when we could have been controlling the territory. Not no more. You can donate right now. www.nationalblockclubuniversity.com. Put your $12 in. Get everyone in your family to do it. Friends all over the nation. The quicker we acknowledge and support the only structure that ties whatever we're dealing with to blocks, 16 blocks, so that we have a squadron that can deploy, detach, execute, come back home for the base, rest, training, all of that. We can do this. Let's do it now. Peace.